This is a 5-chime railway locomotive horn manufactured in Australia by RVB Engineering. These were used by the New South Wales Government Railways from the late 1960s through to the mid-1970s and were fitted to the 422, 442, 47 and 73 class locomotives, as well as the last batch of 48 class locos. The horns proved to be very unreliable and prone to breakage, and eventually the decision was made to fit the much sturdier Nathan P5 horns to newer classes of locomotives. The 5-chime model is simply an extension of the 3-chime version, which had been in use on the Victorian railways for many years. When first designed, the diaphragm chambers were cast in bronze with screw-in back caps, but by the time the New South Wales Railway started using RVB horns, the chambers were being cast in aluminium, with the back caps being bolted in place. The difference can be seen in this photo, with the chamber on the left being of the older design. The New South Wales Railways made only limited use of the 3-chime version, with the example shown here coming off a 600 class rail motor. It had not been painted and was in very good order, so it was probably a replacement horn and had not been in service for very long, making it ideal to demonstrate the design features which made this type of horn prone to failure and makes it difficult to dismantle those horns that have had decades of use. Most of the trumpets, or bells as they are more correctly called, consist of 2 spun brass and copper parts soldered together. After a few years of being subjected to the vibration experienced on the top of a moving locomotive, the solder tended to disintegrate, allowing the flared end of the bell to rattle around or simply fall off, both of which radically altered the sound of the horn. Also, because the bells were so flimsy, any kind of knock, such as a bird strike, resulted in a crumpled or bent bell, again changing the tone of the horn. To replace a bell, it has to be unscrewed from the diaphragm chamber, but because the bell is brass and the chamber aluminium, the galvanic reaction between the two metals means that the bell is often seized within the chamber and refuses to budge. To make things worse, the small set screw installed to prevent the bell from vibrating loose is also brass and is often seized in place, and even if you can manage to get it out, the thread underneath it has been crumpled when it was originally tightened, which makes it difficult to unscrew the bell. If the diaphragm chamber needs cleaning, the back cap has to be removed, but if the mild steel nuts, bolts and star washers that have been used have rusted and expanded into the aluminium body, this can be very time consuming. The cap itself is intended to be a very tight fit into the chamber, but over time it often gets stuck. To get it out, it needs to be gently tapped and prised. The problem with doing this is that if it has been warped or bent in any way during the process, it makes it almost impossible to tighten the bolts correctly so that an even tension is applied to the diaphragm by the cap. All 6 bolts have to be tightened to the exact level as shown on the rear of the cap, and if the cap or chamber body has been bent just a fraction out of alignment, then the bell will not sound correctly. The final design problem is that the plumbing used to join the aluminium base and diaphragm housings is made of brass, so once again the galvanic reaction that has often been going on can mean unscrewing those components is quite difficult. Because of all these issues, it was rare to hear one of these 5-chime RVB horns sounding as intended. They quickly earned the name Screaming Cats. This photo indicates the specific frequency of the note that each bell should sound if operating correctly. What follows now are some samples of the horns being blown. These were recorded in the late 1990s when a number of locomotives were still in service with RVB horns that, as far as I could tell, seemed to have maintained in good working condition. Hopefully a sense of how these horns are intended to sound is conveyed.